Red Wing Pottery is another industry for which our town is known. It is said that the clay deposits of the area first attracted the pottery manufacturers to Red Wing. They made jugs, jars, churns, milk pans, and other staple items. The fine dinnerware now made requires a careful blending of clays from many parts of the country. The clay is mixed with a moisture and then kneaded to remove the air. This is called pugging. The processed clay emerges from the kneading and the airing machine through a tube, looking like toothpaste coming out of a giant tube. The rolls of clay are placed on a machine called a jigger. This moves the rolls slowly toward the pressman. As the proper quantity for each piece passes a cutter, it is cut off and picked up by the pressman, who slaps it onto a mold. A jigger man puts the molds and clay on a semi-automatic machine, which forms the clay bottoms for the plates. The jigger man then places the formed plates on a conveyor, 350 in a batch, where they move through a dryer under electric heating elements. They are in this dryer about 35 minutes. There, the plates are hardened only enough to enable operators to handle these particular units. After this original drying, the plates may be taken off the molds. They are then stacked 8 on a pallet and placed on a conveyor for further drying. The time for this final drying depends on the size of each piece. All moisture must be removed before they go into the kilns, since moisture will crack the pieces. When those who operate the dryer have checked the plates and are satisfied that they are completely moisture-free, the plates are placed on a revolving spindle. Another operator trims the rough edges off with a cutter. She then sponges them. They are now ready for the kiln. Approximately 3 days later, after the firing process, the dinnerware is hand-painted according to the selected design. These designs are worked out to appeal to the tastes of the modern housewife. The original Red Wing Capistrano design is being painted here. Other currently popular designs are the New Magnolia, Lotus, and Swallow. The painting completed, each piece is covered with a glaze which completely obscures the design on the plate. It is control of the firing and glazing operations that determine the final quality of the dinnerware. Some pieces are fired only once, others twice. Some go through controlled chemical reactions in the ovens to take on oxide pigments that make the colorful pieces in dinnerware and vases. Control of the heat is also of prime importance, not only in determining the quality of the final product, but in preventing disaster through cracking, breaking, and blistering in the kilns. Normally, the heat during the first firing is held at 2100 degrees, while in the second firing or glazing, it is held at 1950 degrees. If the heat were to go up just 10 degrees, it may result in blistered pieces. Since the first firing continues uninterrupted for 2½ days, the kilns must be on a 24-hour schedule. Here, the hand-painted pieces you saw being sprayed with glaze are removed and ready for shipment. To form cups and hollowware, clay is poured into the mold and left to stand for about half an hour. When the clay is poured out, a thin shell clings to the mold. This is dried and fired to make the cups. Handles are molded separately in special forms and attached to the cups at a later time. A shop for the sale of seconds, which are sold at reduced prices, is across the street from the plant. This is the Lotus Pattern dinnerware set. It was designed by Charles Murphy of East Liverpool, Ohio. 15% of Red Wing's production is modernistic and conventional vases and art pottery. Just across the hill from the pottery factory is another clay industry, the Red Wing Sewer Pipe Company, one of the oldest industries in the city. Now operated by Mr. T.E. Carey, this company manufactures the clay tile needed for modern sewage disposal facilities. Clay is hauled by truck into the plant to fill the storage shed as often as necessary. The interesting fact about this raw product is that it is a completely spent material. For hundreds of thousands of years, it has been washed, bleached and subjected to nature's chemical, heat, and frost action. It is reduced to the minimum. It is chemically at rest. Consequently, when only clay is used to make the pipe, it will not decay, rust, or disintegrate from chemical action in use. After the clay has been crushed in primary crushers, it is simply run into a revolving bed where water is added to make the right consistency. Huge steel discs cut into the clay, mixing it and the water to a smooth consistency. The clay and water mixture is the raw product from which clay pipe is made. To remove clay from the wet pan, a cutter crock is pushed into the turning clay to direct it onto a conveyor that will carry it to the presses. From the wet pans, the clay is brought to a feeder machine. Each load dumped into the cylinder will make 5 8-inch pipes 3 feet long. The mud head is steam-operated at 125 pounds of pressure on each square inch. Anywhere from 1,000 small pipes to 100 or 200 larger pipes are turned out each hour by this machine. One of the most interesting machines in the plant was designed by the plant superintendent of the Red Wing Sewer Pipe Company, Ivan Johnson. It picks the pipe from the press, turns it over on its other end, and gently lowers it onto the cart for movement and storage. Previously, this was a 3-man job. Working with a steady rhythm, it is completely controlled by valves, except the swing-over, which is manually operated. Another product made by the company is called AeroBlock. This was developed by a company employee to be used in the filtering of sewage during the purifying process. These are laid in the filter bed in place of rocks, and liquid is sprayed over the bed. The great amount of surface area eliminates several problems in sewage treatment. 20 tons of moisture from the clay in the pipes must be moved out of the storage area each day. When sufficient moisture has been removed, the pipe is ready to go into the kilns. The clay pipe is now made up of billions of tiny clay particles. In the kiln, these will be welded into a solid unit. The whole structure of piled-up pipe is supported on soft clay to absorb any uneven settlement and prevent warping or cracking of the pipe during the vitrification. The pipe will remain here for a little over 9 days. When the kiln is sealed, the fires are started to gradually raise clay to the vitrification point. At the peak of vitrification, the surface of each little clay particle is softened and united with melted minerals. When the clay is softened inside, salt is thrown on the fire to release sodium gas, which combines with the silica in the pipes. In spite of the vast amounts of coal burned, almost no unfiltered smoke is released into the air. The cooling off of kilns and pipes is a more delicate control job than the firing. It takes 7 days of slowly introducing more and more ventilation before the men can go in to remove the finished clay pipes. To test the pipe, a man raps them with a hammer. If they ring true, they are completely fused into a solid unit. The various types of pipe are stacked in the yards to await shipment.